This morning, President Donald Trump insisted that Israel did not goad him into war with Iran. It was his decision and his decision only. But there's this thing called evidence, and there's plenty of it to counter what Trump is claiming. Before we get to that, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so this is like somebody walking into a room and going, "I'm not gay." Okay, all right, got you. So him saying, "I'm not controlled by Israel." All right, if you say so, brother. But as you're about to see in this story, there is ample evidence that he is.
Totally. So this morning, Trump wrote the following on Truth Social. Bear with me. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon did. Okay, he continues, I watch and read the fake news pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made up stories. And the polls are rigged, much as the 2020 presidential election was rigged. Just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about. The results in Iran will be amazing, and if Iran's new leaders, regime change, are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. Now look, the timing of these posts, interesting to say the least, because on Saturday, Trump actually acknowledged just how unpopular the war how unpopular Israel has become, right? The war is obviously very unpopular. The American people do not support it, but Israel is very unpopular. Probably for the first time in America since Israel was established, okay? So let's give you the details. He attempted to defend Israel in his statement, but he says, whether people like Israel or not, I don't, they have proven to be a great ally of the United States of America. How? He doesn't explain how exactly are they a great ally. They lied to you and manipulated you into thinking attacking Iran and succeeding in, installing a puppet regime would be easy to do, and clearly it was not easy to do, and now we're stuck in what appears to be a quagmire. He continues though, let me give you the rest of his statement. They are courageous, bold, loyal, and smart. They have blackmail on him, Cenk. They have blackmail on him. And smart, and unlike others that have shown their true colors in a moment of conflict and stress, Israel fights hard and knows how to win. What do you mean by fights hard? The IDF excels in murdering unarmed civilians. They refuse to put boots on the ground in Iran and are urging the United States to do so on their behalf. What do you mean they're bold and they're strong? What?
No, these statements, Anna, went a long way in convincing me he is controlled by Israel. They were perfectly counterproductive. Now, why? There's all of these have Israeli talking points in them. So, October 7th, always mention October 7th, because why? We're the victims, we're the victims. Tell us about how Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. They're on the verge of having a nuclear weapon when Trump had said months ago that we've completely destroyed their nuclear facilities. He's back to the Israeli talking points about they're about to have them, right?
Right.
Has been throughout this war, but it's interesting that the guy who said they were totally destroyed has gone back to, no, they're about to just start a bomb, which is perfect Netanyahu talking point. He mentions regime change, that's third Israeli talking point. Normally he says, we're not doing regime change, but he's back to that here. And then the last two posts were just like, right? He's gonna kiss Israel, not just on the left cheek or the right cheek, but also in the middle. Okay, so he's like, they're the greatest loyal, I love Israel. Wait, I thought you were trying to make a case that you're not controlled by Israel. And you just gave us nothing but Israeli talking points and how you love them and are on your knees groveling to them. So you couldn't make a better case for the opposite of what he was trying to prove.
I know, it's great, it really is. Now, what's going on here? Why did Trump out of nowhere decide to make this statement? I mean, look, one reason could be his plummeting poll numbers, especially as more and more accusations of Israel's control over Trump are being made. I'm gonna give you some additional evidence in just a minute, but first, take a look at this.
Donald Trump standing with the public here now, an approval rating in our poll here of just 37%. The last time this poll reported out a couple months ago, it was 39%. The big change from then to now, of course, is the launch of the war in Iran and everything that's continued to happen there. So down to 37% approval for Trump, and mention Iran, and look at this, a big driver of that clearly is how that war is going. Only a third of adults adults approve of Trump's handling of the war in Iran. There's a quarter, I should say, 1/4 of Republicans say they disapprove. Those who call themselves Republicans.
The numbers are much higher for Republican voters under the age of 30. A majority of them are actually very much against this war in Iran. And I just want to remind you all of what Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, had to say about our decision to go to war with Iran in the very, very beginning. Let's take a look.
It was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true. If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
Yeah, the appropriate thing to do with a threat like that from Israel, instead of allowing them to, dictate US foreign policy, is I would respond to them by saying, we are cutting off all weapons and military support, all aid to Israel right now. That's what we're gonna do since you're making these threats. Real quick, Cenk, I just wanna remind you all of the reporting in the New York Times recently, which we covered at length, but I'm gonna give you the relevant excerpts from this piece. Let's go to graphic 7 and then 9. In the Situation Room, the Situation Room, Benjamin Netanyahu, a foreign leader, made a hard sell to the Trump administration, suggesting that Iran was ripe for regime change and expressing the belief that a joint US-Israeli mission could finally bring an end to the Islamic Republic. This is what he was telling Trump. Netanyahu and his team outlined conditions they portrayed as pointing to near certain victory. Iran's ballistic missile program could be destroyed in a few weeks. The regime would be so weakened that it could not choke off the Strait of Hormuz, and the likelihood that Iran would land blows against US interests in neighboring countries was assessed as minimal. Every single US base in the Gulf has been either severely damaged or destroyed. So,
right before I launched TYT, the doubt was real. What if nobody watches? What if it doesn't work out? I got past those initial hurdles, but when we launched our Shop TYT store, the doubts came back. What if people don't like the designs? What if nobody buys anything? Making those leaps of faith was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And it helps when you've got a partner like Shopify on your side. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from big names to brands just getting started. You get hundreds of ready-to-use templates to build a beautiful online store that matches your style. They make it easy to change your online store so you can feature new designs. And Shopify's AI tools write product descriptions, headlines, and even enhance your photos. Plus, their purple Shop Pay button, it has the best converting checkout on the planet. Fewer cart abandonments mean more sales for you. Everything from inventory to shipping to returns, all in one place. It's time to turn those what ifs into. With Shopify today, sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. Go to shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT.
Is this the great benefit of having an ally like Israel? They give us crappy intel to drag us into ridiculous wars on their behalf. Is that why? Please.
Yeah, I asked AIPAC on X over the weekend because they're like, oh no, this is such a mutually beneficial relationship. When America gives us money, that actually helps America more than Israel. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I like your logic. So why don't you give us the $320 billion back? That way Israel will be tremendously helped. That's your logic, right? Curiously, they didn't respond back because it's obvious propaganda and doesn't stand up to 1 inch of critique. So now, to Anna's point about how the right wing is flipping, for Republicans over the age of 65, they're still totally on board for Trump and the war and anything Trump says. So not totally, actually, to be fair, he's lost nearly 20 points there. So meaning that he's only got 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 is still a big number, but Trump had never come close to losing 20% of his older voters, right? The ones that are watching Fox News and have the thing in the back of their neck like, oh, Sean Hannity says I must love Israel. and love war. Okay, I will now, right? So those guys.
Greatest ally.
Greatest ally ever. Give all my money to Israel because Trump and Hannity told me, right? So those are now like sometimes referred to as zombies. And now, but not just by us, but by right wingers who are younger. So in fact, under the age of 30, they're on our side saying that no, Israel, negative view of them, negative view of the war. And the difference between under 30-year-old Republicans and above 65-year-old Republicans is a shocking 35 points within the same party. A 35-point difference, that is enormous.
Yummy in my tummy.
Yeah, and the reason for that, as I've explained to you guys many times, is the media that they're consuming. So the older viewers that are right wing are still watching Fox News, so they're getting nothing but Israeli propaganda. That's what Fox News does. On the other hand, the younger folks are online. And today, when I put out a post, for example, saying, Iran, Obama's Iran deal was actually really good. A lot of Democrats, independents were like, yeah, you're actually right. It's a Republicans are like, no way, man, because they heard their whole life that
it was bad.
That it was a bad deal, etc. Right. But when I switched over to and I said, Fox News is brainwashing the older Republicans. That's the only reason why they're still supporting this war in Israel. Tons of right wingers were like, oh yeah, that's totally true. F Fox News. So they've caught on to, the younger right wing has caught on to Fox News being just straight up propaganda. And that's a beautiful thing to see in this country.
It sure is.
So these things move slowly. Given how slowly these ships usually move in politics, this is lightning speed. 35-point difference this quickly is amazing. So one more thing here, and this is really important. Do they have control or just influence Israel over the President Trump, right? So that's what we've been discussing all show and including in this story. Well, one piece of evidence is no president threatens to do the obvious, which is what Anna said earlier. Hey, if you don't listen to us, we are going to take away your funding. I mean, we give you so much money, $4 billion a year. That used to be considered a lot, but now we're just shoveling money over them. Biden gave them 21 billion, Trump gave them an extra 13 billion. Congress just sent them more 1,000-pound bombs and armed bulldozers because they're totally owned by Israel. It's disgusting. Anyway, so neither Biden nor Trump would ever, and by the way, in my lifetime, no US president, including Obama, has ever threatened to take away their funding. Why wouldn't you use that threat when it's the most obvious threat to get them to do what we want since we're funding them?
Yeah, you would think that we have no cards, but we're playing with a full deck. And for whatever reason, we haven't had a single leader who's willing, well, I shouldn't say that. Back in the day, I mean, Reagan dangled military aid to Israel when Israel wasn't complying. Even George H.W. Bush did that. George W. Bush did that, although not as aggressively. So as the years went on, Cenk, and I think as corruption became more and more baked in our system and foreign lobbying became mainstay of our political system, you see less likelihood that our leaders would be willing to push back against Israel and their demands.
Well, I'll back that up even more by saying Eisenhower was pretty strict with them that they're not to get nuclear weapons, etc. And then so was Kennedy, until of course he was assassinated. And then Lyndon Johnson immediately was like, yeah, you can get nukes. So like getting soft on Israel started exactly at JFK's assassination. I'm not making any insinuation. I'm just telling you literally what happened in history.
We can speculate.
Right. So, but whatever it might be, our presidents in my lifetime have been totally neutered and like, oh golly gee, I don't know what leverage we have on Israel. I mean, Barack Obama, you're an incredibly bright guy who was the head of Harvard Law Review. You couldn't figure out what leverage you had over the Israelis? No, this is how a country acts when it's occupied and controlled by a different country.
There are some political, I don't want to say leaders because he's not quite a political leader yet, but there are some members of Congress who are starting to feel comfortable threatening US aid to Israel. Congressman Khanna happens to be one of them. Take a look.
All Trump did is listen to Netanyahu. That's his entire foreign policy. And you know what? I resent the fact that Israel is going to tell the United States what to do. The American president should call the shots in this country.
Yeah. Look, somebody on X today was like, Am I the only one who thinks Ro Khanna is obviously presidential material? Why is no one talking about that at scale, right?
He's winning me over.
Yeah.
I will say that. Like the fact that he goes into, I don't want to say enemy territory, that's too strong. The fact that he's willing to go to Fox News and make his case like that, especially against someone like Maria Bartiromo, love to see it. Keep doing that. The fact that he's open to going on any show, regardless of how big or small the audience happens to be. I really respect that. I mean, how difficult has it been to get so many progressive members of Congress to come on independent shows and make their case for anything? Ro Khanna will go on any show, and I love that about him.
No, it's even more than that, Anna, because okay, I mean, sure, they should definitely go on independent shows. You're 100% right about all that. But for the moment being, forget that, just go on the Sunday talk shows, right?
100%.
Go on television and oppose the war. Why is that hard for Democrats to do now, let alone progressives? Why isn't there 12 progressives on each show making the case against the war? So like the fact that Ro Khanna appears to be the only guy fighting for us is at this point becoming glaring. And by the way, so it was Bill Madden who said, and he wrote an article to go, I don't get it, it should obviously be Ro Khanna, right? The reason why he doesn't get it is, and why the establishment doesn't even include him in half the presidential polls, is because the establishment doesn't want Ro Khanna.
No, they don't.
So that's why they interview him. To be fair, they do. He goes on those shows, and probably because he's the only Democrat who shows up, they're like, okay, since you're the only guy, all right, come on.
Yeah.
So they've been fair to him in that sense. But leaving him out of the polls, leaving him out of the conversation, MS Now did choose your fighter for the 2028 potential candidates. They had 24 people on there, didn't put Ro on. Why? Because MS Now is a corporate channel, and they only want corporate and Israel-loving Democrats. So this is the fight that's going to happen going forward.
100%. Okay, let me just say, MS Now, it kind of gives you a hint into the kind of bipartisanship they like to celebrate versus the actual bipartisanship that yields results that they do not celebrate. Ro Khanna is one of the only Democratic members of Congress who doesn't give a damn about signaling his, ideological purity. If he thinks reaching across the aisle and working with Republican lawmakers is going to yield results that benefit the American people, like, I don't know, getting the release of the Epstein files, he's gonna do it. And I personally really, really respect that.
Look, super last thing on that.
And it's not BS, sorry, interrupt. It isn't the kind of BS bipartisanship that happens to screw Americans over on behalf of corporate or moneyed interests. That's the kind of bipartisanship MS Now likes to celebrate.
Yeah, so the last thing I was gonna say, look, it's kind of obvious to us if Tom Massey on the Republican side is gonna help us release the Epstein files, which puts, well, first of all, on its own, forget the political implications, right? I actually care about the victims, we do deeply on this show, and they should get justice. I care deeply about justice. That's why I named it Justice Democrats. Justice is coming. I'm obsessed with it, right? And then on top of that, politically, it's a giant win for the Democrats and the anti-Trump forces. So this brother comes across the aisle to help us on that. Because why? He's an honest guy. You might disagree with him on other stuff, but thank God he's did that. Marjorie Taylor Greene did that, etc. So then I was wondering before, and I figured it out, like, why didn't other Democrats, just on the politics of it, jump onto the Epstein files until Ro and Massey had created unstoppable momentum, and they were like, oh yeah, us too, right? So why didn't they join the press conferences and the initial fight? Then I realized, oh, that takes courage in Washington to work with any Republican, because the conventional wisdom is, if a Democrat works with any Republican, even if the Republican is helping us 100% on that particular issue, no, that's it, you're canceled, and etc. And while everyone's hiding, going, no, I don't want to help Massey release the Epstein files, I'll get yelled at. Ro was like, wait, we're releasing Epstein files? I'm in,
I love
right?
it.
And you know what that is? That's courage. That's the courage to lead.
And it's forging the types of alliances and relationships necessary to get the job done. And that's what we need to see more of in Congress.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.